This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. You can text the show on 8 12 15. Why don't you? People do. You'd be surprised. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Cheaper. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. Free.
Morning.
So, morning.
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 Air Bist.
I beg your pardon?
It's a black country.
Oh, I love that.
How based? I think it comes. I think there were many Germanic settlers in the Black Country, and so "bist" is, of course, a German word. It means "how are you?"
When you say, of course, I mean, Pierre would have known that, clearly.
Well, I imagine that you knew a German actor
You're not wrong.
when you were a kid.
Yes, I had an uncle.
You were friends with Erich von Stroheim.
Oh, I had an uncle Klaus.
Oh, did you?
You okay?
Oh.
Yeah, he lived in Hamburg. Thank you.
Well, that seems like the
to-
right place for him.
Back to Frank Skinner in the studio. Talking of which, Pierre, I had a little treat this week.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday. Thinking, what shall I do? Turn on the TV. Who's there? Only Frank. Only Frank. That's a new website. Adult
Yeah.
website.
Only Frank's.
Yeah, Only Frank's. You were great on it.
Thanks.
You
I'm
sound
waiting for the payoff.
No, there's no payoff.
Sunday brunch.
There's no
Sunday
payoff.
Brunch, yeah.
Yeah. But what I like about Frank is he says, this is what he said, Pierre. He's being interviewed by Simon and Tim, isn't it?
Yeah. Your mate Simon.
Yeah, Simon.
Do you
He's my
remember
mate now. Don't.
Emily was on a train and Simon was in her seat?
Oh.
We've become very close pals
Yes.
now on
The
social media.
the
as a
reservation
result.
king.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what I liked was that Frank said at the end of the interview, "Can I just say?" And I thought, what's he going to say? I do a brilliant podcast.
I know I shouldn't have said brilliant. Some things you have to keep in the head.
He said,
know.
"Can I just say, I do a brilliant podcast. It's called the Poetry Podcast." And they went, "Oh, yeah, sure." He said, "Honestly, you really should listen to it. It's really good."
No, well, they forgot to mention it, and sometimes people just need a little G-up.
But that's good. That justifies a number of words like brilliant, though, just for the sheer joy of saying, "You've ruined this, you forgetful fools."
No, it's easily done.
Rubs it in.
No, it was a very pleasant interview, but I mean, I'm there to sell my wares.
Yeah, yes. Much as you love brunch and Sundays.
Yeah, exactly. Food was great, actually. When I've been on it before, the food has been, I think, mediocre. But on this particular week, it was splendid.
Well, can I tell you what else Frank said?
Please.
Is when they said, well, Frank, you've, when you've dated, people a lot in the past. And Frank said, "Yes, of course I've been out with a lot of women. I'm old and famous."
That was a reasonable explanation, I
great.
thought.
Yeah.
How did you find, he made some friends. He made a lovely friend, Spencer, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I've worked with Spencer recently on the One Show.
Spencer, what's the surname?
Don't
Matthews.
ever ask me that kind of thing on air.
He's from Made in Chelsea.
He's from Made in
And he's
Chelsea.
teetotal.
Yes.
I thought that
4 years he's done.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he's used it as a springboard to launch a non-alcoholic spirits range.
Yes.
I never thought of that. Well, I don't know if I could have done that in 1986 when I packed up because I was unknown. Maybe a fragrance.
Why don't you launch a non-alcoholic drink, Frank?
Oh, no.
Why not?
Because ultimately,
Some sort of Bovril.
even I think that's boring. I remember drinking as being brilliant, mainly.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't do it. Michael Parkinson interviewed me once, and it's one of those, when you're on the Parkinson show, there was a moment when the camera used to really close in on your face, and then he would ask you questions that he hoped would make you cry. And he said, "So you had real terrible problems with drink, didn't you?" I I said, well, there was problems, but obviously, mainly, it was brilliant, or I wouldn't have kept on doing it for so long. And he was saying, no, but you did have problems. And I said, yeah, but I mean, if every brilliant thing you do has, like, side effects. And he got really angry, really, like, Yorkshire angry. Will you join in with this or not? I got, oh, dear. And there was a terrible moment. Well,
I've it this week on Yorkshire Angry.
When I watched it go out, there's a terrible moment when the camera widens again. They've given up on me.
Oh, no tears today.
Oh, no tears.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, can I just say we've also had a lot of people getting in touch. They saw, including Jim, James 5 Egbert, as he calls himself.
Oh, yeah.
When you say, oh, yeah.
No, I don't know him. But.
Can we please hear more about Frank's recent meeting with the legendary and much-loved Stato? There was a photograph this week posted of you, David Baddiel and Stato. It was a reunion photo. Had a lot of people getting in touch about that, enjoying that moment.
Yes, well, it was... me and Dave are all set to go to Stockport on Monday to go and see Stato. And then, as fate would have it... he was asked to do fantasy football this week. Fantasy football, as you know, goes on without us, like a riderless horse. So, we were not dragged behind it, though. You know that when that happens in the films, when you've still got your foot in the stirrup.
That's a real phobia of mine.
Oh, horrible. Yeah. So anyway, they asked him to do the last one. So thank God. We hadn't bought the tickets in advance for the train.
Yes.
So, so we went and seen him and we had a fabulous lunch, me, Dave and Stato, like the old days. It was brilliant, actually. And I remembered how much I loved him. Not that I'd really forgotten, but there was lots of man-hugging going on and stuff. It was great. But it has not changed one iota. In that every story he tells you has a sport thing in it. So he'd say, so I went to Portugal. I'll tell you what it was. It was when, do you remember Peter Hoosterhouse had that fantastic round in the Open? It was no, I don't remember that. And everything is tied to that. I remember, I was with a friend of mine. It was just after the Usain Bolt, blah, blah. It's incredible.
So his life is through the prism of sport.
He's like a sports almanac.
He's measured out his life through league tables.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, he knows. He does know a lot. By the way, on one thing I didn't say on air, which got perhaps my best laugh of the day.
Was this on Sunday Brunch?
On Sunday Brunch. There was a bit where two chef Simon Rimmer and
Tim Lovejoy.
No.
Oh, the other chef.
Yeah, Fred. The handsome French.
Oh,
man.
Fred Sirius.
Yes. So
he's a sommelier. Yeah.
They're both. Well, yeah. They both talked about about being a chef, about being a restaurateur. But they sort of interviewed each other the way it worked. And I said to those who could hear me, I said, this is going to be B-Tech hospitality management for me, which went well on the table, but I didn't feel I could say it on air. It seemed a bit undermining.
Well, when you say it seemed a bit undermining, about 3 minutes in, when people were asking each other questions, they were asking the guests, when were you first on TV? Frank interrupted and said, well, this is good television, isn't it?
Oh, well.
People just talking about when they were first. And I got a bad here at that point. I nearly turned it off.
It's just helping people out.
Ruth Jordan, sorry, I won't go on about Sunday Brunch all morning, but just to say, Ruth Jordan has been in touch. On Sunday Brunch, it felt like Frank had the other guests hanging on his every word.
Well, that wasn't.
Giving advice on things like packing to go on tour. Perhaps he could turn these tips into a new book called Old and Famous.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like the title, but I don't like the content. Tips. It's like those people who write to me and say, I'm writing a book about stand-up comedy. Could you write a chunk for me to put in it about your views? And I think, hold on, who's writing the book again?
Really? Really?
Yeah. And people often write to you and say, can you write a thing for the book I'm writing?
I'm going to send emails to the various heads of physics at university. So I'm writing a book about physics. Could you just...
exactly. I'm
couple of
compiling.
paragraphs?
Compiling is the word they're reaching for. By the way, there's something I've noticed from my appearances on Sunday Brunch.
SB.
There's something that I do that I've never seen another guest do.
Well,
More of that later.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
So yes, the only person I've seen on Sunday Brunch who always takes a toothpick.
you are.
Yeah, and I think that's madness, because to eat food often with green stuff in it and then be interviewed seems to me a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Well,
Why is the UK so under-toothpicked?
I really don't. I mean, when you get... I've had a lot of teeth removed. I don't know if I've told you
that's
this before.
attractive.
My first 3 trips to the dentist, I had 16 teeth out. And
I didn't even know one had 16 teeth.
yeah, well, some of them I think must have been milkies, but if the whole right side of my head I'm chewing on gum. Nevertheless, my teeth over the years have noticed that their comrades haven't just gone for a toilet break, they've gone forever, and
Maybe
they've moved
sometime.
over. They've moved over a bit.
Yes, yeah.
You know, when you get a half-empty bus and school children will sometimes sit on a double seat each.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like that.
I'm still recovering from you referring to your teeth as comrades.
Well, no, they're comrades. So, yeah, so I've got... My teeth are sort of operate like a toast rack. They've made neat little slots for the food to sit snugly
Yes, yes.
in. And so I have to have... And if I'm on a programme like that, I have to toothpick after every little snack out.
Did the others do?
No, they don't. Maybe with young people, they don't have the gaps.
Well, there aren't many
Well, they've
things.
all got the veneers now as
Yeah,
well, you see.
That's true.
Do they not have gaps?
8, 12, 15.
They close
Yes.
them in.
I'm intrigued. Does it make it... Yeah, you close all your gaps down, Frank, with the faux teeth.
They close them in, your teeth and
Oh.
gaps.
So
That's what
there's
you need.
No food packing.
If
Maybe
there
you
is...
should get veneers. It might save you on the toothpick.
I don't want to. I can't get. I might get a Vermeer.
Why
Yeah.
can't you get veneers,
Chew on that.
Frank?
Why?
Why wouldn't you, just out of interest?
Because, as it says in the New Testament, you don't put old wine in new wineskins, nor do you patch an old robe with new material,
Oh,
because
dear.
it will just tear at the joint.
You also... Actually, I remember you once said... Oh, that's bad news for me. Frank, I remember you once said, I wouldn't do it because I think comedy is truth.
Well, yes, I
Yes.
think there is something in that.
Yes.
I can't think of any comedians on telly who've had things like hair transplants or their teeth whitened.
No.
And there's a reason for that, because comedy is truth. Speaking of truth, I went to Moss Bros this week to get measured up for my investiture outfit.
Ah, tails.
Yes, I'm going to, if you give me a chance.
As I beckon to you. Tails, tails.
Occasionally.
Like a medieval, sort of feudal tale song.
Yeah, like I'm the bard. The bard has arrived. Tails!
Come, more tails.
I think you'll find a fool.
I occasionally nowadays have to use a prompt. Forgive me.
Tales, come.
So, yes, I went into Moss Bros to get measured up for my my investiture being the day I get my MBE, which is approaching quickly. I'll tell you what happened after this.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, could you please tell us about your investiture?
Well, not the investiture so much. That doesn't happen until next month. However, I already have my had a thing to say I can park at Buckingham Palace come through. Love it. Any road up.
You have to photocopy that.
As I've spoken about this on the show before, I've got a big head.
Yeah.
I mean a big head. And you may recall a wardrobe woman said to me that along with me and Benny Hill had got the biggest heads in show business that she'd worked on, and
Yes.
she'd been in it for years. So I went to Moss Bros, and I said that there's going to be a problem with the hat. He said, there won't be a problem, don't worry, we got a large range of hats. I said, there will be a problem.
Yep.
He said, no, we have all shapes and sizes in here. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Just remember this conversation. So we tried the other stuff on, all fine, and then we got to the hat, and they just sit on top of me like, you know those men that used to, little animated figures that used to laugh at seaside resorts. You ever see them? You press a button
yes.
and they laugh, and they used to have like a tiny hat that just sat on the top.
Just at a sort of jaunty angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Porky Pig, I think, occasionally.
Yes,
in,
Porky Pig. And also, I think there was a vogue for ladies wearing them with sort of tutus in a slight sort of rock video.
Oh, I
Do
like
you know
the
what I
sound.
mean?
What, Hazel O'Connor kind of a setup?
No, it was more. Do you know what I
Sort of in
mean?
the-
It was
it's
a
a-
bit more Pussycat Dolls. Maybe.
Oh,
it was a
right,
bit
right.
Don't You Wish.
Okay.
So anyway,
Anyway,
what did they say when you put the hat on?
he
Frank?
said, the guy said to me, okay, so cool. Well, I've measured your head. He got the tape measure out.
Did you go footballer's tense?
So he's measured the head, and he said to me, right, your size is 71/2.
Yeah.
That's your size. I said, 71/. I said, I think that says 7.5. And he says, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I said,
The faith draining from you like
I'm-
water from a shot
Okay,
barrel.
I've got concerns.
yeah, and shot pretty low as well. So I said, 7.5. I said, that won't be big enough. He said, no, that's,
Exactly, tell me about it.
that's the size that I said, well, look, here's the 7.5. I've already tried it on. I put it up there. It's sat on top of my head.
Mr. Monopoly.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a sort of
I might
cabaret
as well have what
figure.
exactly.
Weimar Republic.
Yeah, more like a hair slide than a hat.
Yeah, fascinating.
So I said, there's a 7.5. That it will not do.
Oh, well, we've all
And he
said
said,
that.
well, look, you know, we can get anything in Moss Bros. And I said, my personal assistant was with me, and she said, well, I've got a note from the last show he did where he wore a hat. It says,
Lynn with Alan Partridge.
It says, call the police. Do not
Yeah.
sell this man a hat.
exactly.
He will ruin you.
Yes, it says 8 people are now living in that hat. No, it says in a fairy tale grotto in the north of England. But anyway, she said, he said, according to my records, they say 8 1/8 to 8 1/4. And he said, well, we only go up to 8. That's the maximum at Moss Bros. And I said, well, I'm going to have to sleep in a ventouse on the lead up. And I don't know if you know what it means, but he didn't. I suggested I might need to tighten my fontanelle if I've got any chance of getting it on. All barren land. He was a lovely man, but what could he do?
No.
He wanted to help me, but there was a glass ceiling of size 8.
Yeah.
Oh, so what's going to happen with the hat?
I'm going to go for size 8.
You're not.
I am.
I'm stepping in.
But here's the plus.
What?
I was looking a little ahead, if you'll pardon the pun, to Ascot when I tried the hat. 'Cause I've now discovered that at the investiture you don't wear a hat. You just wear the lower regions. So I've got
Like
time.
Donald Duck.
I've got time to steadily tighten the bandana. The way Victorian women used to develop a trim waist.
Is there sort of a no hat thing to save the sovereign's arm? Sort of an extra
I
foot
think
of
it's
effort?
when you bow, you
The
must
sword.
get fed up of being banged on the toes by falling top hats. So that I'm off with that one. Ascot, well, we'll see how it goes.
Frank Skinner
Absolute Radio.
Here's the thing. A very good friend of mine was telling me that her other close friend resolved that this year she was not going to get out of the way of anyone in the street. That was her.
I was not expecting that to be
Do you know?
where you were heading.
I love this friend, whoever they are.
It's a woman, and she said she just got fed up of people just walking straight at her, and she felt, and I don't know about you, but I've had this feeling that it's always me who moves out the way.
Yeah.
That no one else ever seems. And some people, they don't even give you the angle. You know, you get the angle when there's two people passing each other. You go slightly diagonal to.
You've got to open it up.
Some people, they just keep walking straight, wide-shouldered, face on, and in the end, you have to sometimes do a very last-minute further swivel to let them through. And I don't just mean like, thick-necked men. Obviously, they do it. But I mean a lot of people.
Yeah.
So she has resolved that that's it. This year, she's going to do that, walk directly through for a year and see what happens.
I love it.
Wow.
Well, do you know, interestingly enough, I mean, I say interesting. I have
We'll be the judge of
well,
that.
quite. Well, I will deliver it with such confidence I
No,
might sell it.
I'm confident
What I would
too.
say, I did this. I didn't make. There was no resolution involved.
No.
I just did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I get a gentleman or a lady, noisy runners. I feel it's gratuitous. I feel it's a performative noise they make. They go, ah, ah.
Yeah.
I react with a slight shriek.
And I've heard him. Come on, give us your
I did it
shriek.
the other day. So can you be the jogger? Pierre, if you don't mind, I suspect you
Okay.
can do it. You know.
What sort of overexerting?
Yes.
Yeah. Now that is, I've heard Emily do that in all sorts of occasions.
Yes.
I did it the other day and I realised I was doing it quite regularly because there were a lot of joggers. It was
Yes.
early in the morning. And I thought it felt so liberating. I thought, you're giving me noise, I'll give it you
Yeah,
right
it's like
back.
when I've seen that happen in professional tennis, is that one
Yes.
person serves with a grunt and after a bit the other one thinks, oh, two can play at this game. Especially in the doubles. Yeah, so that's a good idea.
Oh, okay.
You going to stick with it? Anyway, look, what interesting regimes have you committed to 8, 12, 15? I don't mean things like the National Socialists in 1930s Germany. I mean
Nothing
things,
impressive.
no, things that you've resolved to do, like the year of not getting out of the way.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. Text the show on 8 12 15. Follow. Oh no, 8.5. No, sorry. Text the show on 8 12 15. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. If you didn't get that joke, you should have tuned in earlier. Nah, 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 nah. Okay, have we heard from Le Monde Al Fresco?
Lovely. Kirsty Eastwood has been in touch.
Like it so far. Ooh.
You would...
Yeah.
Oh. But she's had that her whole life.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Eastwood reference, yeah.
But with Kirsty, sort of Clint's English cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can get American Kirsties, do you?
What about Kirstie Alley?
The late Kirstie Alley.
Kirstie Alley.
Frank, you were referencing things you've resolved not...
And don't forget her brother, Chemical.
Frank,
Anyway, carry on.
I mean, heaven's sake. You talked about a friend of yours and her resolution, just to recap,
Yeah,
was...
she's entered into a regime of a year of not getting out of the way for people because she's fed up of people just walking into her.
Do you know that's a good book? I'd read that. The Year of Not Getting Out of the Way.
Can I say, if anyone's thinking of doing it, she has met some antagonism already, of especially men, angry men who mark their status by making people get out of the way.
Furious blokes.
Furious
So-
like, woman getting in my way.
I have a regime to shriek in response to any joggers
Yes.
who are performatively huffing and puffing. So Kirsty Eastwood has been in touch. I resolved not to move too, much like your friend, Frank.
Oh,
After I did it for a family of 5 who took up the full path and weren't budging.
no, I know. I've
I
seen that before.
tripped down a pothole and tore the ligaments in my ankle.
Oh my! Please don't tell me that this text is from that pothole where she still resides on help.
Kirsty says it didn't last long. I'm now back to moving out of the way again.
Yeah.
But a lot of people texting in or messaging in about not just a regime, the very same regime. This is
Oh.
clearly a national
This is a thing.
plague.
It's interesting. The thing I've talked about before is that when you talk about something like this, you never hear from the people who don't get out the way.
Yes.
You want to hear from the people who do.
Well, we've also heard from Emma543,
Oh,
and she says, "Morning team. I've resolved to stop bringing my neighbour's bin in, as it's never reciprocated.
that's a
Liberating
good eye.
and petty."
That's the name of my solicitors. That is.
I like
That's
it.
good. I can absolutely see how one arrives at that.
I get it, Pierre.
I've took
I
their
get
bin
it.
in 3 weeks, not a thank you, and then my bin was left out. I can see that.
Really?
And that's a thought process. Mine wasn't. I get my bins in fast.
I was going to say.
I don't like them. I tell you why I don't like them out there. It's because passers-by seem to think they're litter bins.
Yes.
Oh, when I see a rogue pizza box.
Well, I don't mind a pizza box because
You don't mind a pizza box? They
What
make me sick.
I've had get this. I've had non-recyclable things put in my recycling bin. I mean, no wonder the planet's on fire. I'm going to put a dead polar bear on the bin and say, "Okay, go ahead and
Look at
your
its-
hand is on this beast's jugular."
Look at its lifeless eyes before
Yes.
you consider this crisp
I
packet.
tell you, maybe it wouldn't make any difference.
No.
Well, I have school children walk past my house and they leave terrible sweet packets everywhere. This, as Frank said on...
Anyway, Grandma,
I know.
we're going now.
As Frank said... How dare you? If I'm Grandma, what does that make you, for pity's
Well,
sake?
I know, but I don't mind children eating sweets.
I do. That's because you got one.
I know. I think I'm your Bob Cratchit.
I mean, I'm sorry. They throw them on the floor, these people.
I don't like that.
I don't
get me
like
wrong.
it.
I don't approve of that. I mean, some of that. I mean, and you never know on those things. Can you recycle a Hello Panda packet? I couldn't find anything on it. Hello Panda next to my goodbye polar bear.
Frank, I'm
lip
sorry,
sticker.
we're going to go now. I know we're going to go to the break, but just briefly, Howard Greater.
Yeah.
I won't be going to any destination weddings. None. Others' nuptials will not decide, this is all in caps, where and when my holiday will be. And I'm sorry, but I will not budge on this.
Wow.
That's Howard Greater.
No, I can see that. I can see that. I'm very angry about having to go to Egham. That's where the producer's wedding is, in case you're wondering.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Regarding, Frank, your comment that we never hear from the people who don't get out the way or do these terrible things.
Yes.
I did a comedy club gig the other day, as I'm wont to do, and I saw people in the crowd pointlessly filming bits of the set, sort of very ostentatiously, sort of in the way of the people behind them. Fully turning around in their seats to chat to some of the people who they came with, who were sat behind them during the show, and cackling loudly in the middle of setups, not at the comedian, but about things that they were just whispering to each other. And I realized throughout the course of the evening that this was all the same person. or the same two people doing these things. And I
Right.
think the reason we don't hear from them is that all of this behaviour isn't spread. It's concentrated in these sort of nodes
Yes.
of antisocialness.
I wonder if they... that sounds to me like another comedian. I always think if someone's filming the show, it's another comedian trying to get some gold.
Yeah. But these
Yeah.
people were just doing it for themselves, like the people
Yeah.
who film fireworks displays.
Yeah, that is... Have I done that? I don't think I have. I'm not going to tell you now anyway. Now you've said that.
Yeah.
Make me look stupid.
I don't like fireworks displays.
No.
As you know, I laugh like a drain at fireworks displays, and I've never quite worked out why. But I really...
Can you imagine me with my feelings about noise? It's just me standing in a field going, ah!
Yeah. Yeah, what about that noise?
Under fire.
Did you watch Nolly?
I did not.
No!
It was a drama about Noel Gordon, who was a woman who starred in a Midlands-based soap opera called Crossroads, which we never missed when I was a child. And when I saw it advertised, I had a flashback to our mirror that was over the... we had a mirror that had sort of Regency ironwork around it, sort of curling metal things.
When you said our mirror, I thought that was a sibling I didn't know about.
No, it's a mirror we had over the fireplace, so the
Okay.
central family. It might have been the only mirror we had in the house. Nevertheless, it had like leaves as part of the
Oh,
decoration, metal leaves.
Foliage, yeah, I know the
And
type.
it meant that you could tuck things behind it. And there was two things tucked on our mirror. One of them was a signed black and white postcard of Noel Gordon, where my mum had seen her opening a supermarket, and she'd signed this thing. And the other one was a £1 note signed by Ginger Baker, the drummer from Cream.
Right.
And it just made me wonder, as a texting, what celebrity memorabilia did your parents have when you were growing up? 8, 12, 15. I'm optimistic.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Frank, you asked what I thought was quite a fine question, which was what memorabilia, celebrity memorabilia specifically, did
Yes.
your parents have?
Yeah, I wouldn't ask you that question.
No,
Obviously,
we don't have 7 hours.
I once saw your dad's address book, which was pretty remarkable.
So, and we had a rule, as my mother said, never ask friends for autographs.
No, quite right.
So, 747, 2 Frank Skinner programme.
Nice.
Yeah.
My dad had a cigarette from Hugo Gagarin. Is it
Yuri Gagarin?
Yeah, he said. I thought it was. Is that Yuri Gagarin? He kept in the china cabinet for years until it finally fell to bits.
Was it smoked by him? Was it a
I
dog
presume
end?
so. Yes.
I mean, he's Russian. He probably smoked on the mission, didn't he? You probably could smoke in
In the space station.
the Russian spacecraft.
Well,
Yeah,
he's
so
up
it's
there for
you.
days.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to smoke.
Is it spelled? I thought it was spelled. It's not spelled Hugo, is it?
No, it's
Yuri.
Yuri.
Yeah, I
you
thought it
are.
was Yuri.
You
Yeah,
are right.
sorry.
Yuri Gagarin.
We might
Yeah.
be in autocorrect territory there.
Yes, I think maybe. I think maybe that's also.
Oh, his brother, Hugo.
It could be
Yeah.
Hugo. Maybe
He's
it's
posh.
not Yuri Gagarin.
Yuri Gagarin's posh.
Maybe it's not Yuri Gagarin. Maybe it is Hugo.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not so good.
The
Okay.
jealous tobacconist.
So we've also heard from.
I would be very happy to own a cigarette smoked by Yuri Gagarin.
Well, you've got other astronaut memorabilia, haven't you?
I've got a signed picture from Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah.
And he was very happy to take that, I seem to recall. 725 has been in touch. Hi, Frank and team. My parents used to go to a club called the Double Diamond in Caerphilly, South Wales. Have I said that right?
Yes.
For cabaret evenings back in the day. I remember a black and white glossy photo of Anita Harris, which was quite beautiful.
She was beautiful.
Other acts, such as Jean Pitney and Acker Bilk, performed there too.
Wow.
I think they're all dead now. That's from Tracy Istrad Minech. I've
That's
just done a made-up Welsh accent. I'm allowed, I'm half Welsh. South Wales. We're getting all sorts of these. We've also had, what
I
about
like
this?
that, though.
Yeah.
Acker-bilk.
We've heard from Lammy.
I've lived a long time. I've never met another Acker.
No. Rare.
I think it was an abbreviation of something. I think he had a name that was a bit too formal for a jazz clarinetist.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was christened Acker.
This is from Zero.
Isn't that Johnny Cash song? And if I have a son, I'm going to name him Acker. Ding, 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 ding. I mean, Bilk. We're ignoring Bilk as if that's a normal name.
Pierre, did your parents have any celebrity? Any South African people, maybe?
Weren't really any celebrities. I mean, if they
Didn't you have
did, it must
celebrities
have.
in South Africa.
Well, if we did, they'd be completely incomprehensible to me and the listeners.
I
think so.
I met Acker-bilk's arch rival, Kenny Ball.
A jazz rival.
Yeah, Kenny Ball and his jazzmen.
Sure.
In a pub when I was in my drinking years.
Yes.
And I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'm going to. I took down my all my lower clothing and danced singing Midnight in Moscow, one of his big hits. And the other, the jazzmen thought it was hilarious. Kenny looked uneasy, I thought.
He thought, where's this escalating to?
Yeah, exactly. He probably did. He probably thought this is one of my big hits here.
Okay.
And, of course, I must tell this, I went to see West Brom play Dinamo Bucharest in the Cup Winners' Cup, and they were unable to obtain a copy of the Romanian national anthem.
Oh, yes.
And so they played Midnight in Moscow because they thought, vaguely it's European. So the men stood there with their hands on their badges.
Too relaxing.
Yeah, it was an odd thing.
Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
We've heard from the outside world. We're talking about celebrity memorabilia. I don't know if this quite counts as it's not endorsed or signed or personalised, but I enjoyed it, so it's going in. This is from Bev. Bev says, when I was a kid, my mum and dad had a Kevin Keegan rug on the floors.
That's great. That's great. In case you don't know, Kevin Keegan was a very famous footballer in the 70s.
Yes, but a rug. I mean, there's all sorts of footballers I like, but I don't have a Zinchenko rug in my house.
He was one of the pioneers of the curly perm.
He was. We weren't allowed to walk on the Kevin Keegan rug, and we got done if we did. What does that mean? They got hurt? Or something?
No, there would be some sort of
Reprimand.
parental punishment.
Getting done was slang on the Isle of Man growing up for being reported to the authorities.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
I'll
Well,
get
it's a
you done.
version of that.
Eventually, they got fed up of telling us and they hung it up on the wall as
Quite
a
right.
picture. It's still hung up in their house. I'm 55 now.
Like a tapestry.
Well, there used to be a
Thank
very...
you, Bev. I enjoyed that enormously.
There was a very lovely old man who used to go to the Albion, no longer with us, sadly. The Albion, and he used to make rugs. And he made one for Adrian Childs to commemorate relegation one year, which I didn't see coming. I thought I liked that.
I would love to see a punk band called Adrian Charles's Relegation Rug. I would queue up to see them.
Yes.
It will
What a
come. It will
brilliant band. It's
come.
very East London.
It will surely
Isn't
come.
it? It really is. What about this? This is from Alistair. Hi, Frank et al. Long-time reader, first-time contactor. I'm currently cleaning the handrail of the spiral staircase in the Elizabeth Tower, which is more commonly known as Big Ben.
Oh, okay.
This is making
Wow.
me feel like I'm
What a
in
job.
some sort of dystopia with the long and winding stairs and constant clanging of bells. It made me think...
Okay, Isha painting.
Yes.
Well, Alistair says, it made me think of a question for Frank, which has been on my mind for years. Is his favourite dystopian novel The Road or a canticle for Leibovitz, both of which he's given that accolade. Mine's the latter, but neither as good as Tiger?
I haven't read a
No.
Tiger.
So, do you have a response for Alistair?
I would say
Cleaning Big Ben at the moment?
I would go Canticle for Leibovitz. There was
Okay.
bits in The Road which I found so disturbing that I had to go out for a walk to remind myself
Like someone in EastEnders.
that there were ordinary people doing ordinary things.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. I like that he's in big... I meant that mainly because what a great thing to be doing on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's best dystopian novel.
Yes.
But then again, Russell Hoban's novel, which is a sort of Punch and Judy exist into the post-nuclear future as gods. I can't remember what it's called. It's
Okay.
absolutely fantastic.
Okay, we've got Bill Whitmore. Hi, Frank. On parental autographs, when clearing my dad's stuff out, I found an old autograph book with names of people I barely recognise and am not able to decipher. There is Bernard Bresslaw,
Oh, yes.
but I've no idea on any of the others.
Okay.
One of them could be Albert Einstein, I would know. Would you care to... I think Bernard Breslaw's a good one. Would you care to explain who that is?
Bernard Bresslaw was a large, lumbering actor who always played the sort of heavies in films. He was in quite a few Carry On films.
Yes, he would always play... He'd be a bit soppy with women. He'd say, I really love you, darling.
I could be wrong. I might have got it, but I think he was the prisoner who had his brain wiped by the master's mind-cleaning machine in a John Pertwee story.
Oh, here we go.
I think
How
might not have
he
been
has to
Bresslaw.
mention him every single week.
No, you asked me about to identify. It might not even be him, but
And
it's off.
you somehow managed to get Pertwee in.
I did.
That he will always find a way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I used to be on the door at Claridge's. I always managed to get Pertwee in. Sorry, you were going to say?
I think Pierre's
further-
do you have some communique? You're poised to read
Yes.
something.
Well, further to your inquiry, I was so sure that my parents would have no celebrity memorabilia. They didn't possess it, but my dad says there was reputedly a photograph of his uncle meeting the Queen in Peter Maritzburg at some stage.
Well,
He was caught unawares and had an ice cream behind his back.
oh.
Oh.
God, I'm
let
surprised he
him know.
wasn't shot by security. Oh, man.
Wouldn't take on Monsieur Novelli.
No, but if someone approaches the Queen with an ice cream behind their back, you're going to be anxious.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Embra Ken, Bernard Bresslaw played Varga in The Ice Warriors. Oh, God. With the second Doctor Who, Patrick Troughton.
Oh, so it wasn't him who was the brainwashed prisoner.
No, thank God we've established that.
Neil
Yeah.
McCarthy, apparently.
So,
Oh, thank you.
There you are.
boys,
I had my doubts.
before we continue with the show, I need to discuss something with you because I've actually been dying to discuss this with you both all morning.
I'm anxious. How are you? Yeah.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay. Hugh Grant.
Oh, yes.
Now, we need to discuss this because he's been accused of something. How can I put this? I feel this might be a hard relate, as the kids would say for you, Frank.
Okay.
Just because there might have been a little bit of gittishness.
Is that a very bad couple counselling session?
I think it's fair to say some thought he was wearing the bit of a git crown this week.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
this is to do with his behaviour at the Oscars. I should say I've struggled to remain impartial on this because I don't know if you know this, Pierre, Hugh Grant is in my top 5 men.
Okay.
in the world.
Yeah, a lot. You know the others: Henry VIII, Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
Vince Cable, and the son of John Darwin, disgraced canoe man
Oh, yes,
who faked his
the-
own death. I
yes.
based this on one Sunday supplement picture I saw of him 7 years ago.
No, but it's sometimes you see a picture like that and it really it touches something.
It really did.
It's a motley crew.
And oh, okay.
Yeah, mine is
You
Motley
want to
Crue.
dance? Frank's is
Who I'm
seeing
actually
Tom.
seeing soon at Wembley, so that'll be exciting.
So, and Hugh Grant makes up
I know he does.
But I've just always loved him. I've always
Fair
loved
enough,
him.
yeah.
So I have to be honest. Obviously, I saw nothing wrong with this.
We should say something about quite what happened.
Do you want to explain what happened?
Well, Hugh Grant was at the Oscars to present one of the... I got the impression it was... I can't remember... put it this way. I can't remember the category of Oscar. It was one of the ad break ones.
Okay.
Not one of the biggies.
It'll be cinematography.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something underappreciated.
Animated
Yeah.
short.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm like, really.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
thought you were describing Hugh Grant.
And
I'd have said more Wayne Sleep if I had to come
Yeah.
up with a pocket
He
description
looks
for that.
fabulous.
he was stopped on the red carpet by an interviewer.
By the police.
Yeah.
Well, this is
What,
the
again?
Oh my God. Well, we should say this is the thing. This is the key thing. She's not a professional interviewer. She's a body, she's an influencer.
She's a model, isn't she?
She's a model and a body positivity activist.
Yeah.
And a model.
Yes, and a model.
I would argue that they are working at cross purposes.
Oh, well, she's quite a successful
She is.
model,
She's
but
very
as you say, that
successful.
doesn't make her.
No, she's
Andrew
not Ludwig.
Neil
She's
is a
not-
good interviewer, but it doesn't feel that sets him up for catwalk work.
Ludwig Kennedy. I didn't say, yeah.
Ludo, he was
the
in your
address.
dad's address book. Yes, certainly. We'll come back to it. We haven't really got to what happened
No.
yet, but we will, Oscar. We will.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Pierre Novelli. Text the show on 8 12 15. Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio. Email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. Bit of Latin Mass in my announcement. Actually outlawed by the Pope, so I won't be doing that again.
No.
Absolute Radio.
For fear.
John Hopkins
Hopkins?
has got in touch regarding celebrity memorabilia.
Ah, yes.
One of my dad's rugby pals was adamant that he owned a...
Was adamant? That's good.
One
Has
of-
adamant ever been described as one of my dad's rugby
No.
pals? No, definitely not.
One of my dad's rugby pals was adamant that he owned a dressing gown which used to belong to the Bishop of Bath and Wells.
That is a fabulous piece of memorabilia.
He claimed he found it in a hotel. Before big matches, he would wear said dressing gown as a good luck charm.
Do you think he got mixed up with the phrase bathrobe?
I think that's quite a nice sort of medieval... This was the robe of a bishop. It will bring us
is
luck
that,
in the coming
Bishop
fight.
of Bath and Wells. I like that. That's a great
And then
piece of
Ultra
memorabilia.
Magnus, I mean, our regulars are really delivering. They always do. It's in the details.
Cardo.
Ultra Magnus. My wife's grandparents, I mean, I'm already in. My
Yeah.
wife's grandparents have a newspaper cutting from when Ina Sharples came to visit Widnes. Full stop. It's not signed. Full stop.
You want signed. It's like when you get, when you get to the Hard Rock Cafe
Yeah.
and it's all about the neighbourhood they put you in. And the last time I went, I was led past the Lou Reed guitar and sat underneath a black and white unsigned, I think it was Meatloaf. No.
Well, I remember...
Unsigned.
I wasn't allowed, as you know, to get autographs because my mum said we weren't allowed to ask friends for autographs. But once I went rogue at our school fete, and on the same day, which was lovely, at my school, I got the autographs of Kenneth Williams and violinist Yehudi Menuhin, which I like to think summed up
Yes.
in some ways the many different faces. May I return us to Hugh Grant?
You went very high then.
Did I?
I saw an Alsatian in the street jolt and turn.
Well, I'm a lady. I speak high. I'm sorry.
It's fine. We need... Remember that in The Odd Couple when Walter Matthau says, I just want to spend some time with people whose voices are higher than ours. They're so desperate for female company.
Hugh Grant.
And that was the Cuckoo Pigeon Sisters, if you remember the film. It's a great film. Carry on, darling.
Hugh Grant, he's got in trouble. And I suppose if I'm completely honest, Frank, I really was very interested to know your take on this. He said, as we've established, it didn't start well because the interviewer said to him, "You're a veteran of the Oscars," and I'm not sure how that went down.
Oh, I think that's a compliment, isn't it?
Okay. Then, well, I think she intended it to be. I'm just not sure how it was received. And then the big thing was that she says, "Well, what do you make of tonight?" And he
She
says,
said, "What do you love about the Oscars?" Didn't she?
He said, yeah. He said, "Well, it's fascinating. The whole of humanity is here."
Not true, of course.
No.
Very
And then he
select
said,
section.
Completely the opposite
It's
point.
all, and then he paused and he said, "It's all about Vanity Fair." To
Yes.
which she replied, "Oh, yes, it's all about Vanity Fair. That's where we let our hair down and enjoy ourselves later."
Yeah.
So that was awkward, wasn't it?
Well, I thought, to be fair to her, the trouble is with saying Vanity Fair is you're either talking about William Makepeace Thackeray's novel, which exposes the triviality of that kind of world, or you're talking about the celebrity fashion mag Vanity Fair, which is at the complete opposite end of the scale.
And crucially, their Oscars after party.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he confused her early.
He's laid something of a trap there, conversationally.
It was like when Vinnie Jones took out Steve McManaman early in the FA Cup final. The
very
idea,
like
Exactly what I was thinking.
the idea was to throw
Exactly what
them.
Hugh was thinking.
He's a bit of a football fan.
Yeah, but he's a Fulham fan. Is that real? Fulham
Yeah,
fans,
that's
are they?
what celebrities who are too frightened to go to Chelsea tend to support Fulham.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
So we're back with Hugh Grant on the red carpet.
Yes.
And the interviewer then said, "Have you got your hopes up for anyone?"
So there's anyone you're looking forward to seeing, he said.
And to which he said, "Not particularly."
No, yeah, exactly.
Quite
But he did-
Skinnerian.
Yeah, but what
Maybe she says, "What are you wearing?" And he says, "Frank."
my suit.
Yes. Did she say what or who?
She said, "What?" But everyone knows that what means who.
Yeah.
And then he said, my tailor,
Yeah.
tell you. Which I thought was
Yes.
perfectly reasonable. It all got very awkward. She referenced the movie Glass Onion, is it?
Yes.
When he
Which
said
was-
I was in it for about 3 seconds.
Which, if anything, is that's probably an overestimation.
Really?
Yeah, it really is just a sort of brief visual joke. Really,
Does he
It's not-
play Daniel? Oh, we don't want to spoil
No
it, actually,
spoilers.
because that's quite a nice
No
moment.
spoilers.
So,
I think he...
what do you overall think
Well,
of
my
this?
motto, I've been interviewed many, many, many times over the last 30-odd years, and my motto became quite early on, I think just shortly after doing The Word for the first time, that don't let a bad question get in the way of a good answer. So it's a bit like when you do an exam. You know what you've got good, interesting stuff to say. It's only that first sentence that needs to twist that into what you've got to say. And I think he could have played... If you're at the Oscars, you've got to expect some frippery.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you can't go to a Premier League game and say, what... Yet another player feigning injury. Why isn't something done about this? You have to just allow,
I'm going
nonsense.
to defend you.
Yeah?
I'm sorry. I feel that if you can't ask these generic questions, he's a 62-year-old man. You don't ask. No offence, but you don't say, "What are you wearing?"
Well,
You don't ask the same questions you'd ask Kim Kardashian.
but
to
Hugh Grant once asked me one of the most cliched questions.
What did he interview you?
No, he said to me, "How did you get my number?" Which is a very cliched showbiz question. And what happened was he'd been involved in an incident in his car.
Well, we know.
Yeah, I think the story was that there was...
We know the story.
his passenger was scratching about for loose change in the loose change dish,
Yes.
so she could unchain a supermarket trolley.
Oh, okay.
But the police didn't see it that way.
No.
And I'd been to church, been to mass. I was in America, and I went to church, and the priest's homily was all about how Hugh Grant was an example of the moral corruption of the modern world. So I thought, I'll tell him this. So I was trying to get him on my chat show to come and do his, like, mea culpa thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I found him up, and he said, look, I'm in my house here. The curtains are drawn because there's paparazzi outside. How did you get this number? I said, it's fine, just somebody. And we had a bit of a chat. He was all right, actually.
Yeah.
But he said no to the show.
It wasn't his first trouble with phones.
No.
Well, they were saying it sort of provoked this huge debate. There was, I think, in the Washington Post, there was an article, and the headline was Hugh Grant being rude or just British?
Oh, I like that. It's a very fine line.
None taken, dear. Imagine if we said that.
Yeah, well, we do say quite a lot of things about the Americans, to be fair. I think it's sort of a mutual thing. I saw it
Is Donald
described.
Trump vulgar or just American?
But what about this? I saw a description of it as the worst interview of all time.
Did you?
No.
Which is in direct refutation of a letter I got from the actor Gene Wilder, who said that my interview with him was the worst interview of
Do you
all
know
time.
that? Do you not know about the letter?
No.
Oh, gather round the fireside, frankly. Let's come back to that.
Oh, no, let's not.
Oh.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
We discussed the notion of smoking on space stations.
Oh, yes.
And the proliferation of smoking in say, the 70s. And we've got a good email about it. Hi, Frank, Emily, and Pierre. I thought I'd share with you the most 70s story ever. Big claim.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy this.
My dad went to the doctor with a bad chesty cough. The doctor, who had a glass ashtray on his desk,
Love him.
said,
Or her.
"How many cigarettes a day are you smoking, John?" To which my dad replied, 80. The doctor then said, "It's quite a lot, and maybe the cause of your cough. Have you considered switching to cigars?" Different times. Yours healthily, Eddie, from Colston.
I love Eddie. Is he from Coulston? Frank. Coulston. Eddie from Coulston.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know about this, Pierre?
No.
Frank says, oh, God.
What we used it
Embarrassing.
for cool, you know. Colston for
Frank
cool.
says it as an expression, and he's trying to make it take off, that you'll say, oh, Coulston.
Yeah.
Oh, Colston. Oh, I see. I see.
I had an old Charlie Bocken's Football Monthly with an advert by Stanley Matthews, who's a big star player of the day, saying, I'm a professional athlete, so I smoke these new tipped cigarettes. He's an extremist, one of those health nuts, Stanley Matthews. Played till he was 50.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So,
Gosh.
Frank, I want to take...
Yes.
Oh, actually, very quickly, could you just remind... Let's just round that up with Hugh Grant. I won't have a word said against him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if anyone was
I didn't
offended,
have
but I
a
love the man.
problem with it. It was.
It was funny.
Yeah.
How often do you say that about the Oscars?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Frank, could you briefly, though, just for anyone who's unaware, let's end this with the moment Gene Wilder contacted
Yes.
you.
I used to send out a standard thank you letter to people. Thank you, I really enjoyed the interview and stuff. And I got a letter back from Gene Wilder. Wonka.
Was it personally written?
From the desk of Willy Wonka.
Wonka, yeah.
Was you handwritten?
Handwritten, saying, I cannot believe you have the audacity to write and thank me for what was the worst interview I've ever done in my life. You showed 2 film clips, none of which I was in. You blah, blah, and it gave me a systematic destruction of the thing. But
So that you didn't get the factory in the end.
he said to me, he said I didn't get the golden ticket. So it's just before I did that interview, he said, by the way, I'm an actor. I'm not funny, unless there's a script. I'm not funny.
Oh.
And I thought, well, leave this to me, Gene. But yeah, it was a rubbish interview, to be fair. I hadn't learned how to do it in those days.
Did you reply?
I was a bit Ashley Graham. But it takes while you don't learn it overnight.
Did you say, what are you wearing?
Yeah, I didn't say that to Jean, but I just
It's
all
not
my
her fault.
favourite.
It's just it's a difficult job.
All my favourite bits from his films didn't include him, but I thought I'll show him anyway. I thought he'll be okay with it. He seems a friendly, warm-hearted kind of a guy. Anyway, no longer with us.
Okay.
We'll leave it there.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Frank, you have been talking about Lenny the Lion.
Well, I was last week.
Was it just the one show? It feels like more.
No,
Anyway.
well, I went on a bit.
Well, I'd never seen him, and I wish I hadn't. Terrifying looking.
Lenny
thing.
the Lion was a
All right,
Terry
Hugh Grant.
Hall and Lenny the Lion was a ventriloquist act from the 60s and 70s. And as I said, I think he went on into child literacy. So, like so many performers nowadays, he became an activist.
When you say he
the
went
end.
on,
Well, Lenny.
how much control he had over his career?
On his Twitter feed, it says Lenny the Lion, actor and activist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. It's like Ashley Graham.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I
Lenny
hadn't
the
heard of
Lion.
her before this week. So.
Lenny the Lion, it turns out, is something of a favourite with our readers.
Really?
Okay. What does that tell you?
Well, we'll soon find out.
Okay. Paul Pinfold Jr. has got
Okay.
in touch
Yeah. I bet he gets a lot of Danger Mouse remarks.
with
Annoying.
photographic evidence, which I
Oh.
will be showing you. Hi, Frank, Emily and Pierre. Really funny. Oh, sorry, he gave some praise. I do apologise. I won't read that out. Re Lenny the Lion. I love an email. Subject line, Re Lenny the Lion.
Yes.
Here's a photo, which is enclosed, of my little brother Lee and myself with Lenny. It's a marvellous photo. I'm the one at the back and my brother is holding the hand. Lol.
Oh, he's holding the human hand.
Terrifying single
The
human hand.
terrifying, yeah. The
This
human
was-
hand on the lion.
This was in...
Some of them he don't eat, he just strangles.
It's like, that was like a sentence from the Book of Revelation. And the lion shall have a human hand.
This
And
was...
he shall teach the young of the tribe to read.
Oh dear. This was in 1980 in Coventry at the Duncow pub in Dunchurch. All right, we're not the police. I was 9. I'm 52 next month.
Oh.
Interesting facts. Terry Hall from Oldham
Okay.
originally.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that was Lenny the Lion. He was called
He was
Terry Hall.
Terry Hall
Yeah.
was the operator.
Yeah, the operator.
Yes, his friend. As we
Yes.
said, was such a sweet-
Operator.
Yeah, who suspiciously had exactly the same ring size as Lenny the Lion.
Lion.
LT Lion. A letter for Mr. LT Lion.
Lieutenant Lion.
Go on, please continue.
not.
Are we ever going to get through this one?
Oh, stop being so funny, okay? Anyway, Terry Hall was Mr. LT Lion.
Yes. He was his best friend, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know it was that kind of relationship.
I remember I said I was on after the Sooty show, and I said, "Do you operate sweep?" And the woman said, "No, I'm his best friend."
That was it. He's no longer with us,
And I
obviously.
said, "What's he really like?"
Yes.
Yeah, who's no longer
He
with
was-
us? Terry Hall now.
yeah. He
Lenny,
was-
I think, is still. Is Lenny still working with
I
another
don't know, I have to phone the zoo.
another best friend?
He was the Oh, you don't think so?
Well,
Did they get a new friend?
Sooty got a few new friends, as did.
Oh, was it like that?
Brush?
He was the first ventriloquist to use a non-human puppet. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I didn't
true?
realise any of them were human. What did they use? Called grave robbers.
It was a very controversial art form. in the
Yes, I
Victorian
like the ventriloquist, but the cadaver had seen better days.
The disemboweling
smell of the
aspect of it, I didn't like.
We all remember Burke and Hare's music hall act.
Oh yeah, knock knock. Oh man, I went there. I had a box at the theatre. You know they were buried on the same day.
Are they?
Executing on the same day. But they
That's
were
nice.
worried if they didn't, that they'd keep digging each other up.
Ventriloquist to keep.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
We're still. Well, I'm saying I'd like to stay in the area of this show we call previously.
Yeah, so people send us stuff about things that happened last week.
Now, do you both remember we talked about tribute bands
Yes.
quite a bit?
Yes.
Specifically, a Rod Stewart tribute.
Oh, yes,
Act.
Odd Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had this in. Having listened to Frank's latest programme, I like Frank's latest programme.
Yeah.
Quite points of view. I thought he might like to hear from ... Odd Stewart himself.
Goodness.
My name is Peter O'Donnell, hence Odd Stewart. Oh, O.D.
Oh, D. Oh,
Do you get
God,
it?
it's much more intricate than I thought.
Sort
I
of Da
can't-
Vinci Code.
Yeah.
I can't believe we've heard from the actual O.D. himself.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of Rod since the early days of the Faces when I had a band called Casino.
Nice.
I've met Rod several times as I was the resident band at the Ritz for 12 years. Oh, come on.
Which Ritz, though?
I don't know that.
Surely
There's only
the
one.
Ritz.
There can be only one.
I think you'll find that's incorrect.
Well, it's incorrect in
But anyway,
some ways.
still great to,
but
to be
really,
the resident band for that long.
It's clearly
Imagine
one.
how friendly you'd be with the front of house.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Ritz-Carltons here.
No.
These are vulgar. And I even had him join me on stage to do a number.
That's really something.
He continues, in terms of tribute acts, I also do an Everly Brothers act as O'Donnell and Sapsford, although we could be called the Neverly Brothers, as we
Yeah.
play together and sing in harmony, but are not brothers.
Okay. I don't think the Everly brothers were ever in harmony. They despised each other.
Did they?
as
I think they're in the chair. They're in the double chair for double acts who don't people who don't like each other.
Well,
Simon and Garfunkel as well.
Yeah.
I
Lots
believe.
of double acts, but brothers, when they get it, they really like the Davis brothers in the Kinks.
Cain and Abel.
And of course...
They didn't get on, did they?
No.
No.
Great singers, though.
No, but at least, I mean... The Gallagher brothers made a bit more of a go of it than Cain and Abel.
Did they?
I think so.
Liam never being lured into a field as easily.
Did he lure him into a field? Who was the villain, Cain or Abel?
Cain killed Abel.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, they didn't kill in alphabetical order in those days.
Breaking news.
Listen,
Exactly.
listen. Peter O'Donnell just finishes up. I like this Peter O'Donnell, charming man. He sent some lovely photographs of him with Rod.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I'll show those to you.
Well done, you.
Thanks for the mention, Frank. I love watching repeats of you on Room 101. And I'm glad I'm glad to discover you're now on the radio.
Yeah.
That's from Peter. So, little sting in the tail.
A shot across the bows from Odd Stewart.
Wow.
I didn't mean it. But it's quite an ending.
I thought I was out of range, but he got me in the shoulder as I went over the horizon.
P.S. Frank.
Oh, God, there's a P.S. Don't hit a man, but he's down. Go on.
They have a meat raffle every Sunday at 5:30. There was an interval at the show at the Nag's Head. They have a meat raffle every Sunday at 5:30. So if you want to enter that, now you're not on the telly, maybe it might be a nice thing for you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Peter.
Rod Stewart. Well, anyway, thanks, Rod.
It's not wrong.
Oh, it's hard. Thanks, Odd.
Very odd.
Thanks,
Do you think Sean Connery said that at the end of Goldfinger? Thanks, Odd. Good
Cheers.
working with you.
Cheers, Otto.
You don't get to keep the hat. I don't get to keep no. So, episode 7 of Frank Skinner's Poetry Podcast is out on Wednesday. It's Kay Ryan this week. Kay Ryan believes that we all carry with us an invisible ladder that we don't know about, and that's why we cause so much chaos and damage and hurt wherever we go. But it also gives us the power to ascend and reach that fruit we wouldn't otherwise reach. Listen to that. Download it from wherever you get your podcasts. Episode 2 of Swift and Pope is on Sky Arts, 8 o'clock. Me and Denise Minor. Brilliant. and I'm on Loose Ends tonight on Radio 4. So you know what? I'm everywhere. Hear that, Odd? And if the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. I wonder if there'll be a meat raffle on Loose Ends. Scrag ends, maybe.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.